So this is a Walthers mainline, 60 foot Pullman stand-up bulkhead flat car that I'm going to weather. Now the first thing we have to do is go through and remove the bogies and the couplers, and keep in mind down this back end here on the left we have this super fine brake wheel. Now I'm thinking about actually just tacking a piece of styrene channel onto the end of that so it doesn't get knocked about. And what I mean by tacking it on, it may just be taped on or a little bit of blue tack, just to protect it in the long run during the weathering process. Now a few other things I'm going to do is, between all these timber planks here on the deck, is actually take a scalpel and maybe between the planks is just open them up a bit more to make it look like the timbers have actually been worn, it's been split. Put a few more larger scratches into the timber work and all that. So once the colour goes on, weathering powders, washes and all that, soaks down between all those grooves on the timbers there, we will get that solid weathered look. Okay, so I've removed the bogies and the couplers. As you can see, I've actually put the screws back into the holes there. I do this because I don't want to get paint into the mounting holes and have trouble putting the screws back in, because as you know, the screws for the bogies and the couplers aren't all that long and there's only so much that it will actually bite to the plastic. The paint here you see is Microlux Railroad Tie Brown number 29003. It does look brown there in the bottle, but I can tell you that it's much more of a grey brown, which represents the track grime much better. Okay, before we take the model outside to give it a spray of the track grime or the sleeper grime, what I'm going to do is create a couple of grooves and what have you within the deck of the flat car. You can probably see I've already started through these little areas here, and two tools I use is scalpel and this pointed half round file. Now what I can do is take the half round file and pick a groove and just grind the plastic away a little bit in like so, and what that does is opens up the groove between the planks. So if I do that every so often, you know, nothing, just random, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just grind in there, just open them up, and with a little bit of sandpaper like such, we can just take any little bits of fluffy plastic material or the filings away. You can see I've sanded over this side, and it's just to remove any of this debris that comes out of the plastic itself. So we'll move along a little bit further and I'll do a couple more. One other thing I've done is where the your cables and chains run up through here, you can see I'll just move down to this one here. I've actually taken a notch out of here, and what that does is looks like the chain or the cable has been rubbing up against the timbers there. That'll highlight more once we start putting paint and weathering on top of it. Okay, so I've run over a lot of the planks through here and also the centre planks down the middle. Now you must remember that there is a strip of steel that runs down each side of these centre planks. So when we go to paint this, we'll be painting the outside planks first, masking the centre off, then we're going to mask the outer planks off, mask off the steel, and then spray paint the centre planks. The ends of the wagon have been done too, with scratches and dings in them as well, so hopefully you can see that there. I will post up a photo close up, and also the very ends of the wagons have been damaged as well, with the scalpel, the blade, the file. After you run the file or the blade through the model, take a little bit of wet and dry or some fine sandpaper and just give it a rub and just take the burrs off. So we're back in from airbrushing all the undercarriage, the chassis rails and everything. And as you can see, the old railroad tie brown is much more of a grey brown in colour. So that suits that well. I will add additional weathering to underneath the chassis here using weathering powders. So what I've done is sprayed along the chassis rails on each side, top and bottom, up over the top of the end bulkheads, a little bit across the timber faces on each side here. So that's getting us in preparation for what we do next. You will notice all these little bits of tape here, and what I had done is use the bits of tape as such over the data before I actually sprayed the first layer of railroad tie brown. Once that had cured, I pulled the pieces of tape off and just given it a light colour over the top just to fade them out a little bit of track grime. So the next stage is to take some post-it notes, and these are great for actually using as a mask, because what I can do is line these up as such like that, and you can overlap them, double them up, whatever, throw them down, and I can spray out the centre timbers first on the wagon. Once I've done that, I can mask out the centre, because what you've got here, don't forget, is you've actually got the steel centre chassis rail, then you've got the timbers in the middle, another steel rail down here, timbers, then you've got the steel outer edges here. So each one of these will have to be masked off when we go to paint the whole lot. So that'll be next, and I'll share with you what colours I'll be using to do the final spray of the timbers. Here we have the four colours that I'm going to be using to paint the timbers on the Bulkhead flat car. We have SMS Ocean Grey, SMS Sand, SMS US Desert Sand, and SMS RAAF Earth. Now, I'm not going to put these down individually. What I'll do is actually mix a few colours together. So I may start off the US Desert Sand first to give that worn out sun bleach look to it. Then I may mix a little bit of grey with that. Then I'll add a little bit of sand into that too, and maybe a little bit of RAF Earth. Now I'm not going to spray the whole thing. Once again, I'll use the post-it notes, and I can actually pick out planks on top of the wagon when I go to spray this, or I can use masking tape as well. I just find these things, the post-it notes, are ideal for actually, masking off, because once you spray it down, this stuff dries fairly quick. You can lift it up, move it along, spray the next plank in a different colour. So what I tend to do is do a random pattern of one colour, do another random pattern, and just fill up the wagon as I go. That also includes the bulk flat ends as well. After several masking outs, you can see I've created this timber effect through these planks, up through the centre and these ones on the outside. Now when I remove this tape, we'll expose the bauxite brown on top of the frames here. There we go. So that's just an easy way of painting it. Now it is tedious because you've got to stop and move tapes around and all that to mask out each individual plank, but the results in the end are awesome. Once I get some weathering powders over this and tone them in a little bit more, it'll change it once again. So now I'm going to move on to the bulk ends and line them up and spray them to a similar pattern to what we have here. So as you can see, I've masked off the ends and painted it in a variation of greys and browns through the bulkheads there. And on the other end, it's much the same, just a slightly different pattern. You don't want to have the same sort of pattern. Now, while I had the grey and the brown out, what I've done is went over the trucks. and we gave them a nice dusty coating. Now these can be touched up with a bit of weathering powder and what have you, so they're not too bad the way they've come up. They look okay. So that one and that one. Also, while I had the airbrush going with a bit of this lighter brown, I just gave the bottom of the chassis a light dusting. Not that you can see too much on there, but I know it's there anyway. Alright, what we're going to do next is along these top steel sections through here and the two rails that run through the middle of the chassis, or the floor there, we're going to touch it up with a little bit of artist enamels. Now that's what I use here. I'm sure there's other artist enamels around the world that you can purchase which will do the same thing. Now these will be thinned out with a little bit of thinner. So what I've got on here is a little bit of oil, and over here a little bit of thinner. Now you can see some of the oil in there that has come off the brush. So we pick up a little bit of both, and the idea there is to almost flood it in. Just get that, get the oils to run in on that steel beam there. And we may need to pick up a bit more thinner every now and then. As you can see, that ran quite a bit then, but it is carrying that oil right through the model. So we run that down through there. You can see it drops into the recesses, creating a nice rust effect. Now I have gone through the larger bolt holes here where the steel rail is secured to the chassis, and I've touched that with a bit of oil to start with. So I'm just going to keep running down through here. And just let it run. Let it find its own happy place, you could say, where the rust will sit on that rail. Now it doesn't have to be too perfect. We will be going over this with powders and what have you, just to pick up any highlights, any recesses, especially where earlier we cut into the timbers here. That's where we're going to be adding the powders, letting the powders soak into that like a wash. Anyway, I'm going to keep doing this. Then we'll run down the sides here. Same approach, a little bit of oil on your brush, a little bit of thinner, and we'll just touch these out like so. And you can just see there that you get that nice variation of rust there, which is a nice light colour there. So you can see here I've done the middle chassis rails and also the ends or the sides of the wagon too. At the bulkhead there, what I've done is use this wider brush, picked up a little bit of the oil, picked up a little bit of thinner, and I'll do this end, and what I do is just stipple, just to give that surface rust look. Now you don't want it on top of the timber, which is there, but just a little bit there, and we'll run down the side of the bulkhead there. You can go a little bit heavier up on the corners where you're going to get that little bit more rust, and what we can do is we can fix that up with powders and we can create some streaks in there afterwards. So this end's been slightly done, so we'll just add a little bit more in there. That'll do that. You can see that there quite nicely. Around the other side we will do the same again. You're going to stipple it on, a little bit of light rust, and there we have it. We're not going to go any more than that. We're going to allow that to dry. Now for the sides here, we're going to use the same brush. We're going to pick up a little bit more thinner, a little bit more oil, and we're just going to dab the side of it. Then we're going to drag that away to create some streaking. So we have a little bit of thinner here, we have a little bit of oil on the brush, and we're just going to dab that through. You can see it sort of run through there. Just dab it on. A bit of this is going to come off anyway, so don't worry about if you think it's too heavy. Just run through the chassis. It will lighten up. Go around the bolts and all that, around the stirrups here on the ends. Just touch that up as well. So that should be enough there anyway. And you can see it's only a thin wash over the numbering and the data there as well. It's going to give, once this rust on the very end, on top of the bulkhead dries off, we're almost done. The only area we haven't done yet is within the bulkheads here. So we need a little bit of rust. You can just touch it up with a brush around the ladder, around the frame there, maybe a little patch on the door like we did on top of here and the side of the bulkhead itself. So let's just touch this door up a little bit. Mainly around the lock there, maybe a bit underneath where it may have rusted down, and then we'll just tap on the ladder, not too heavy, that framework there, and it's just to highlight it. It's not actually to paint it, it's just to highlight some of the rust work there. Maybe that little bit of a frame there that pokes up, that holds this up, we can give that a touch over too. And we'll leave it at that. Around the coupler box and these grab irons at the very end there, you can just flick it down and there's enough colour in there to highlight it anyway. So we'll do the other end. This is more frame here, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit more thinners and more oil, and just touch it on, dab it in here and there, and across that frame there, and maybe the brake wheel too, the very end, around the coupler box, that handle. And we might just poke a little bit through the inside there. Sorry if I'm out of the way. It's very hard to do this and try and look at the camera at the same time, so. Okay, we're going to leave it at that. I'm going to call it quits now on that. And we'll let that dry and we'll see how it looks once I put the bogies and everything back on. Like I said, let that dry. We'll give a bit of a weathering and a black wash just to highlight some of those planks in there. Alright. So now that all our oil paints are dry, we're going to make a black wash out of isopropyl alcohol and weathering powders. So I've got this little container here, and this being in a spray bottle will enable me to actually apply a little bit of alcohol in here, just enough that we can wet the brush and run the colour into it. So I'll just get this bag open, which it's an old bag I've had here for quite some time. I'm going to grab some black, and as you can see we can make a solution. There we go. I might even thin that down a little bit more, because the idea here is to drop this into all those cuts that we've made in the timber planks there. So hopefully that'll be enough, even though I've got a little bit here on the table, or the cover that I'll use. And what we'll do, we're just going to apply this nice and lightly, pick up a little bit on the end, and just see if we can run it in. And as you can see there, it just highlights all the dings and all that we have in the timber work. So you can see there. Might just run right across the whole thing with this powder, because it actually gives a nice contrast to everything else. Gives that timber an age look as well. So we can actually just streak it down into here, and it will just highlight some of the planks here. Give it some shadow, give it some definition. When we're done, what we will do is give this a spray of some dull coat or some matte clear, and that'll seal everything in. I'm not going to worry about the ends that much, only around where we have done some cutouts and some chips to the timber, but not the whole plank like we are doing on the wagon floor here. Okay, that should be enough there. actually just transforms the whole model in one go, giving it a wash. And the powders will leave that gritty surface too. Hopefully on some of these timbers here, give it a, whoops, just bump the camera, give it a nice worn look. You can actually see the capillary action working there as it sucks into the individual planks. The rest of it we can dust over anyway with a little bit of powder. I will do these ends, streak it across. I think it's going to be the best thing to do here, and let it find its own happy place, you could say. I think the ends would be ideal to give it a hit and let it run through, let it soak through. After all, it's where the loads are going to be hit, where they're going to be the dirtiest, I think. And if you think you have put a little bit too much on like so, just take your cloth and we'll just lift it a little bit, and it will stain it, but hey, could have been spilt by anything on here, eh? Alright, we'll leave it at that. There we go. So hopefully that'll be enough apart from a light dusting, and the light dusting I'm going to do will be a light grey. Now this is the same paintbrush that I applied the oils on before, so I'm just going to tap it in places. Just give it a brush backwards and forwards. Left and right, just let it run in. Let it do its thing. Give it that age look on the timbers there. And that'll just about do it. Maybe a little bit more on the ends. Grey them down a little bit, tone them down. Oops, sorry about it, my hands in the way there. And it's a nice effect we're getting there. And the other end. Just a little bit more powder. Powders I use are from a company in the UK called Cars, and I bought these powders probably, oh, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. Now one other thing I am going to do, we're going to take a little bit more isopropyl in here, and we're going to pick up a little bit of the orange powder. Now because we've got a little bit of black in there, we're going to make this grimy sort of solution. You can see that it's a nice rust solution. Now that can be, we can just hit the top of the car here, and when that dries it's going to give a mottled look to it. I'll run down the side as well. We'll just tap it in on the edges. I don't know if you can see that, but we're going to just tap it in through here. And like I said, when it dries, it'll leave a completely different effect. Take a bit more of that, and we'll do the other sides. Down the bulkheads here, and again here. Just take it off the planks. And this here can also be used as a streaking solution too, if you really want to just darken that a little bit for rust. Just get a little bit more colour throughout there. Very into the car. I'm pretty happy with what we've done here so far. It's come up quite nice. Better than what it looked earlier on anyway, that plasticky look. Oop, bumping the camera again. Don't know what I'm doing. I'll just give that a bit of a hit up here as well with what we got left. We've got a little bit of liquid in here so we can touch up all the tops here. Won't affect the oil. And I'm going to leave it at that. There we go. Oh, hang on. While we got the bogies as well, grab some of that, what's left here, and we can just touch in around the springs and what have you. And it'll give it more of a rusty look to it. Around the bearings, I'll do that one. Grab what we got left here. Now you can take a little bit of black paint and create, or if you mix a little bit of black and red together, you get that greasy look. So you can actually apply that around the bearing caps too. I'm not going to worry about it. I think what we've done here is enough. So give this a clear coat, like I said, dull coat or something similar, and you're pretty much done. You can just start to see the effect on the ends here, how that's all starting to model up now and starting to look like real rust. So there we go, folks. Hope you got something out of that. I hope everything's in picture. If it's not, I'm going to throw up a couple of photos of the finished wagon anyway, the finished freight car. So there we go. Let's put this back together.